Have you ever done something small, like telling a white lie or breaking a promise, and then thought about it all day? Maybe no one else noticed, but you did. And that uncomfortable feeling inside? That's often your integrity speaking. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another effective episode here at Code Your English, where we explore powerful life topics while helping you build real, confident English, one word at a time. Today's episode is a very special one. Why? Because this topic, integrity, was actually suggested by one of our loyal listeners in a comment. So first of all, thank you. It means a lot when you share your ideas and thoughts with us. This channel is built for you, and your voice matters. Now, I know that integrity might sound like one of those big abstract words, the kind you hear in leadership books or motivational talks. But actually, it's much more personal and practical than that. Integrity is not just about doing the right thing. It's about being the kind of person you respect. It's about being honest not only with others, but with yourself. It's about consistency, character, and choosing your values, even when it's difficult. Think about this. Who are you when no one's watching? When there's no reward, no applause, and no one checking in? That's where integrity begins. In a world full of pressure, to succeed, to impress, to fit in, it's easy to lose touch with who we really are. We scroll through perfect photos, listen to perfect advice, and sometimes we start pretending just to keep up. But integrity pulls us back. It reminds us that our power doesn't come from pleasing others. It comes from standing strong in our truth, even if that truth is uncomfortable, even if it's not popular. And let's be honest, most of us struggle with it. We all have moments when we go against our values, maybe out of fear or self-doubt, or just because it feels easier in the moment. That's human. But here's the good news. Integrity isn't about being perfect. It's about being real, being aware. It's a practice, something you build over time through choices, reflection, and courage. I also believe that learning about integrity is good for everyone. It helps you become a better person. It helps you in your job, in your family, in your school, and even with your friends. People with integrity create a better world because they are honest, kind, and responsible. And the good news is, integrity is something you can build. It's something you can practice, just like English. So in this episode, we're going to explore what integrity really means, why it's so important in everyday life, and how you can develop it in small but powerful ways. We'll also look at real-life examples, talk about challenges we all face, and share some practical ideas that you can apply today, not only to improve your English, but also to grow as a person. Because here at Code Your English, we believe that learning a language is more than grammar and vocabulary. It's also about becoming stronger, wiser, and more confident from the inside out. So, take a deep breath, grab your coffee or tea, and let's begin this honest conversation. Ready? So, what does integrity really mean? You've probably heard the word before in different places, maybe in a classroom, at work, or in a conversation about values. But what is it exactly? Let's break it down in a simple, human way. Integrity means being honest and staying true to your values, even when it's not easy. It's about choosing to do what's right, not just what's easy, popular, or convenient. Imagine integrity as the invisible line that separates what you believe from how you behave. When your actions match your values, when you walk the talk, as we say in English, that's integrity. You're not just saying nice things, you're living them. You're not pretending. You're being real. even if nobody is watching, even if no one ever says thank you. One of the most common definitions of integrity is doing the right thing when no one is watching. This means you don't need an audience, a reward, or a spotlight to behave with honesty and fairness. Think about this. You find a lost wallet on the street. No one saw you pick it up. What do? Integrity is the voice inside that says, "Return it." It's not yours, even though you could keep it and walk away. Integrity reminds you who you are. Now let's talk about a few important parts of integrity. First, there's honesty. Not just about big things, like telling the truth in court or in a job interview, but also small things, like admitting a mistake or not taking credit for someone else's work. When you're honest, people can trust you. And even more importantly, you can trust yourself. Then there's consistency. That means you don't change your values based on who you're with or what you want. You're not one person at work and someone totally different at home. You don't treat your boss with respect and your coworker with disrespect. Of course, we all act a little differently in different situations. That's normal. But integrity means your core values stay the same. Your behavior reflects your true beliefs, no matter the situation. Next is alignment with values. That's just a fancy way to say that your choices match what you believe is right. If you believe in kindness, but you always gossip about others behind their backs, something's out of alignment. If you value hard work, but you're always looking for shortcuts, there's a gap between your values and your actions. And here's the thing, integrity helps close that gap. Now, here's an idiom I really love. Take the high road. It means choosing the right, respectful, or honorable path, even when someone else treats you badly. For example, maybe someone insults you or blames you unfairly. You could fight back with more insults, but if you take the high road, you respond with grace. You keep your dignity. You don't lower yourself just to win the argument. Another expression we often use is stay true to yourself. This means you don't change your beliefs just to make others happy. You don't lie about who you are. You don't follow the crowd blindly. When you stay true to yourself, you respect your own voice, your own boundaries, and your own dreams. That's a big part of integrity. Not just doing what's right by society's standards, but doing what's right for you. Of course, it's important to say this. Integrity isn't about being perfect. Nobody has perfect integrity all the time. We all make mistakes. Sometimes we say things we don't mean. Sometimes we act in ways that don't match our values. And that's okay, as long as we're willing to reflect, to apologize, and to grow. Integrity doesn't mean you never fall. It means you take responsibility and learn from it when you do. Also, integrity isn't about being loud or trying to look like a hero. In fact, it's often quiet. It shows up in small moments, returning a shopping cart, standing up for a friend, keeping a promise, even when it's hard. It's not about big speeches. It's about everyday actions that add up and show the world and yourself who you really are. To understand integrity more deeply, we can break it down into 4 key parts: honesty, consistency, ethics, and accountability. Honesty means telling the truth and not hiding or twisting it, both with others and with yourself. Consistency means your actions match your words, not just once, but over time. Ethics means choosing to do what's right, even when it's not easy, popular, or written in a rulebook. Accountability means owning your mistakes instead of hiding them or blaming others, and learning from them instead of avoiding responsibility. Words that are closely related to integrity include honesty, truth, and character. Honesty is about not lying. Truth means your actions match your words. And character is who you are on the inside, your values, beliefs, and behavior. People with good character often have integrity. It shows in how they speak, how they act, and how they treat others. So let's bring it back to you. When you think of the word integrity, what comes to mind? Is it someone you admire? Is it a moment when you stood up for what you believed in? Or maybe a time when you didn't, and you wish you had? Whatever your answer, that's okay. Just asking yourself these questions shows that you care. And caring is the first step toward growth. In the next part of this episode, we're going to explore why integrity actually matters. Not just as a nice idea, but as something that shapes our lives, our relationships, and even our sense of purpose. Because when you build integrity, you're not just becoming a better speaker of English, you're becoming a better version of yourself. Stay with me. We're just getting started. Why integrity matters in everyday life. Now that we understand what integrity really means, let's talk about where it shows up in the real world. You might think integrity is only for politicians, leaders, or people in high positions. But actually, it shows up in small choices we make every single day. In our friendships, relationships, at work, online, and even in private moments when no one else is around. Let's start with friendships. Think about your closest friend. Why do you trust them? Maybe it's because they're honest with you, or they keep your secrets, or they support you even when you're having a hard day. That's integrity. And it goes both ways. When you show up on time, when you tell your friend the truth kindly, or when you keep your promises, even small ones, you're building trust. Without integrity, friendships start to feel fake or one-sided. People begin to doubt your words or wonder about your true intentions. Now imagine relationships, romantic or family ones. These are the places where integrity really matters, because they're built on deep connection. For example, if you tell your partner that everything's fine, but deep down you're upset, you're not being honest. It might feel easier in the moment, you want to avoid a fight, but it can create distance and confusion. On the other hand, if you gently express your feelings, even when it's uncomfortable, you're building emotional honesty. You're saying, I trust you enough to be real with you. Here's a question for you. Have you ever told a small lie just to avoid conflict? Maybe someone asked, do you like my cooking? And you said, yes, even though you didn't. Or maybe a coworker asked if you finished the task and you said, almost, even though you hadn't started. We've all done it. These moments seem small, but over time they create habits. And if we're not careful, we become someone who says what's easy instead of what's true. Let's look at work. Integrity at work means doing your job with honesty, not copying someone else's work, not hiding mistakes, not blaming others. It means showing up fully, even when you're tired or frustrated. Of course, no one's perfect, and work can be stressful. But when your boss and teammates know they can rely on you, that you mean what you say, it builds respect. And in the long run, it helps you grow, not just in your career, but also as a person. And we can't forget about social media. These days, we live a lot of our lives online. But sometimes, that world pushes us to pretend, to only show the perfect parts of our lives. It can feel like everyone is happy, successful, and confident 24/7. So what do? We start editing ourselves, trying to look better or more interesting. But here's the truth. When you post something just to impress others, or when you say things online that don't match who you really are, you start to lose touch with your integrity. it becomes harder to stay grounded. That's why it's so important to use technology with self-awareness. Ask yourself, is this really me? Am I showing up as my true self? Integrity also looks different in different cultures. In some places, direct honesty is seen as respectful. People say what they feel clearly. In other cultures, people might avoid direct words to protect harmony or save face. So, integrity isn't always about saying everything on your mind. It's about staying true to your values while respecting others. It's about learning how to be honest in a way that also honors the culture you're part of. This balance is especially important when we work or live with people from different backgrounds. So why does integrity matter so much in daily life? Because without it, we feel lost. We say things we don't mean. We smile when we're angry. We follow the crowd even when it goes against our beliefs. And slowly, we lose connection. Not only with others, but with ourselves. But when we live with integrity, we feel clear. We feel proud. We feel strong. We stop needing to pretend, and that gives us a deep sense of peace. In the end, integrity isn't about big, dramatic moments. It's about the tiny decisions you make every day, to speak honestly, to show up fully, to be real, and to stay true to your values even when no one is watching. Take a moment and ask yourself, what does integrity look like in your daily life? At home? At work? With your friends? And are there areas where you feel out of alignment? It's okay if the answer is yes. That's not failure. That's awareness. And awareness is always the first step toward growth. Common myths about integrity. Let's take a moment to talk about something that often gets in the way of understanding integrity. The myths, the false beliefs, that people have about it. One of the biggest myths is this idea that if you have integrity, you must always be perfect, that you never make mistakes, that you never say the wrong thing. But let's be real. Nobody's a saint. Everyone has moments where they fall short, where they struggle, or where they act out of fear instead of values. That doesn't mean you have no integrity. In fact, integrity often shows up in those difficult moments, when you admit you were wrong, when you learn from your mistake, or when you decide to do better next time. Some people think, well, if I lie even once, I have no integrity. But that's just not true. Integrity isn't about being flawless. It's about being aware, being honest with yourself, and trying to align your actions with your values over time. It's about growth, not perfection. And perfectionism can actually become a block to integrity. Why? Because when we expect ourselves to be perfect, we hide our mistakes. We pretend. We cover up the truth to protect our image. That's fear, not integrity. Here's another common myth, that having integrity means you always have to speak your mind, no matter what. That if you're thinking something, you must say it, loudly and directly. But let's think about that. Imagine you're at work, and your colleague gives a presentation. You didn't like it. Does integrity mean you should immediately say, "That was terrible"? Of course not. There's a difference between being honest and being unkind. Integrity includes truth, yes, but also wisdom, timing, and compassion. You can stay honest without being hurtful. Sometimes we confuse bluntness with truth, but being rude or overly direct doesn't automatically make you a person of integrity. In fact, integrity also involves how you express yourself, with respect, humility, and care. There's an English idiom that says, "Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater." It means, don't throw away something good just because it comes with a little difficulty. In this case, don't throw away the value of kindness just because you're trying to be truthful. Another myth is that people with integrity always say yes, that they're always polite, agreeable, or helpful. But this is where people-pleasing can sneak in. Saying yes when you really mean no isn't integrity. It might feel easier in the moment, but deep down, you're betraying your own truth. You're not setting clear boundaries. You're not honoring your own limits. And over time, that creates stress, resentment, and even burnout. Have you ever said yes to something? A project, a favor, a plan? Just because you didn't want to disappoint someone? And then later, you felt frustrated with yourself? That's very common. Many of us were taught to avoid conflict or make others happy at any cost. But real integrity sometimes means saying, "No, I can't," or "I don't feel comfortable with that," or even, "I need time to think." That's not selfish. That's honest. And finally, here's one more myth, that integrity means you never change your mind. But the truth is, as we grow and learn, our values might shift. We might look at life differently than we did 5 years ago, or even 6 months ago. That's okay. Changing your opinion isn't a sign of weakness. It can actually be a sign of maturity. The key is to stay honest during that change, to say, "I've learned something new," or "I see things differently now." That's integrity too. So, to sum it up, integrity is not about being perfect, being loud, or being liked by everyone. It's not about following the rules just to look good. It's about staying grounded in your truth, with courage, kindness, and self-respect. And sometimes, that means challenging these myths, letting go of the need to be perfect, and giving yourself permission to grow. Take a moment now and ask yourself, have I ever believed any of these myths? Has perfectionism or people-pleasing ever kept me from being real? Don't judge yourself. Just notice. Because noticing is the first step toward real, lasting change. Challenges to integrity. Let's be honest. Living with integrity sounds simple, but in real life, it's not always easy. It's one thing to understand what integrity means. It's another thing to actually practice it every day. We all face moments where we feel stuck between what we know is right and what feels more comfortable, safer, or easier. Sometimes the challenge comes from the outside. Maybe you're under pressure at work. Maybe you're afraid of losing a relationship. Or maybe you're worried about being judged. Other times, the challenge comes from the inside, like self-doubt, guilt, fear, or confusion. Either way, these moments test our character. They show us who we are, and more importantly, who we want to become. Think about a time when someone asked you to do something that didn't feel right, but you said yes anyway. Maybe it was something small, like covering for a coworker who was lying, or laughing at a joke that made you uncomfortable. Or maybe it was bigger, like staying silent when someone was being treated unfairly. In that moment, you may have felt a quiet voice inside saying, "This doesn't feel right." That voice is your integrity. And ignoring it often leaves behind a feeling of regret. Now, here's a question to think about. What's the cost of staying silent when you should speak up? Sure, it might feel safer in the moment. No drama, no conflict. No one getting upset. But inside, you might carry guilt, or frustration, or even shame. Over time, those feelings build up. They don't go away on their own. That's why facing challenges to integrity and handling them with care is so important for our emotional health. One big challenge is self-doubt. Let's say you believe in fairness and honesty, but someone you admire, maybe a boss or friend, does something that goes against those values. You hesitate. You think, maybe I'm wrong, or Who am I to question them? That doubt can silence you. It can make you shrink. But remember, integrity isn't about being perfect or always having the right words. It's about showing up with honesty, even when you feel unsure. Another challenge is guilt, especially after you've made a mistake. Maybe you broke a promise. Maybe you acted out of anger. Maybe you let someone down. And now you feel bad. That's a normal part of being human. But here's something important. Guilt can either crush you or teach you. It all depends on what you do next. If you take responsibility, apologize, and learn from the experience, you're actually building integrity, not losing it. And then there's pressure from society, from family, from friends. Sometimes people expect you to say or do things that don't match your values. Maybe they want you to stay quiet, to agree with something you don't believe, or to follow a path that doesn't feel right. In those moments, it takes real courage to stay true to yourself. You might feel alone. You might fear rejection. But deep inside, you know what matters to you. And choosing that, even when it's hard, is a powerful act of integrity. Modern life adds another layer of difficulty. We live in a fast-paced world where image often seems more important than truth. Social media, for example, creates pressure to look perfect, act confident, and always say the right thing. But that's not real life. Real life is messy. Real integrity is messy too. It's about showing up honestly, even if that means saying, "I don't know," or "I made a mistake," or "I changed my mind." Have you ever looked back on a situation and thought, "I wish I had spoken up," or "I wish I had stayed true to what I believed"? Most people have. These moments are part of our journey. They don't mean you've failed. They're invitations to reflect, to grow, and to try again with more awareness next time. So if you've ever struggled to stay honest, if you've ever stayed quiet out of fear, or agreed just to be accepted, you're not alone. These challenges are part of the human experience. What matters most is what you choose to do after. Will you avoid the hard conversations forever? Or will you take a deep breath, listen to that voice inside, and try again, with more courage and more kindness? Remember, integrity isn't just about big heroic acts. It's about small, honest choices, especially in hard moments. That's where your character grows. That's where you become someone you respect and someone others can trust. How to develop and strengthen integrity. So now the big question is, how do we actually build integrity? If we've made mistakes in the past, or if we feel unsure about what's right in certain situations, how can we grow into someone who consistently lives with honesty and self-respect? The first and most important thing to understand is this: integrity is not something you are born with. It's something you develop. It's a skill, a habit, and a choice you make again and again. And like any skill, it gets stronger with practice. Let's start with something simple but powerful: honest self-talk. We all have an inner voice, that quiet narrator inside our minds. And often, that voice can be full of fear, guilt, or judgment. But to develop integrity, you need to start being honest with yourself. This means asking questions like, "Why did I do that?" Or, "Am I acting from fear or from truth?" It's not about blaming yourself, it's about becoming aware. The more aware you are, the easier it becomes to make choices that align with your values. Another helpful habit is journaling. Writing in a journal every day, or even a few times a week, helps you connect with your deeper thoughts and emotions. You don't need to write long essays, just a few lines about your day, your choices, and how you felt. For example, You might write, "I said yes today when I really wanted to say no," or "I spoke my truth even though it was scary, and I feel proud." Over time, journaling becomes a mirror. It shows you patterns in your behavior, and it helps you understand who you are becoming. One more essential practice is setting boundaries. A boundary is simply a line, emotional, physical, or mental, that protects your values. If you keep saying yes when you mean no, or if you allow others to treat you badly just to avoid conflict, you're not living in alignment with your truth. Integrity doesn't mean pleasing everyone. It means knowing your limits, expressing them clearly, and standing by them, even if it makes some people uncomfortable. That's not being rude. That's being responsible for your own well-being. Now let's talk about a really important mindset shift. Progress over perfection. Many people think that to have integrity, they must never make a mistake, never change their mind, and always do the right thing, even under pressure. But the truth is, integrity is not about being perfect. It's about being real. It's about being able to say, "I messed up, but I want to learn," or "I was afraid yesterday, but I'll try again today." This shift in mindset, from being flawless to being authentic, changes everything. It helps you move forward instead of getting stuck in guilt or shame. Here's a good sentence to remember. Instead of being perfect, focus on being real. Being real means telling the truth kindly. It means admitting when you're not okay. It means showing your true thoughts and emotions without pretending. And in a world that often rewards appearance over honesty, being real is actually one of the most courageous things you can do. Another way to build integrity is through daily reflection. You don't have to wait for big moments to practice integrity. It's in the small choices: how you speak to your coworker, how you react when you're frustrated, how you treat someone who can't do anything for you. At the end of each day, take 5 minutes to ask yourself, did I act in line with my values today? What could I do differently tomorrow? These quiet moments of reflection create powerful change over time. And don't forget the importance of choosing your influences wisely. The people you spend time with, the content you consume, the conversations you join, all of these shape your mindset. Surround yourself with people who live with honesty, kindness, and consistency. Watch or read things that inspire you to grow. And try to limit the influence of things that encourage you to lie, compare, or pretend. Also, practice small acts of integrity, like returning something you borrowed, apologizing when you've hurt someone, or keeping your word, even when it's inconvenient. These small actions may not seem like a big deal, but they build your inner strength. They train your mind and heart to follow your values without needing a reward or applause. And remember this: building integrity takes time. You won't always get it right, but that's okay. What matters is that you keep coming back to your values, again and again. Like a muscle, integrity grows stronger each time you use it. Each time you choose truth over fear, responsibility over excuses, and consistency over convenience, you grow. And that's something to be proud of. So don't pressure yourself to become a perfect person. That doesn't exist. Instead, focus on becoming a real person. Someone who's learning, growing, and showing up with more truth each day. That's integrity in action. Examples of integrity in daily life. Now that we understand what integrity means and why it is important, let's talk about how it looks in real life. Integrity is not just a big idea. It's something we can practice every day, in simple ways. You don't need to be a leader, a teacher, or someone special to have integrity. You can show integrity at school, at work, at home, and in your everyday life. Let's start with a simple example at school. Imagine a student is taking a test. He doesn't know the answer to one question, and he sees that another student has written the answer clearly. No one is watching. The teacher is looking away. He could copy the answer, and probably no one would know. But he decides not to cheat. He decides to try his best and be honest. This is integrity. Even though no one would know, he chooses to do what is right. Now let's take another school example. A student promises their teacher they will finish their homework by Friday. But on Thursday night, they feel tired and want to relax. Still, they sit down, finish the work, and turn it in on time. Why? Because they gave their word. And people with integrity keep their promises. They respect their word. Let's move to a common situation at work. Imagine someone works in an office. One day, they make a small mistake in a report. It's not a big mistake, and maybe the boss won't notice it. But instead of hiding it, they go to their boss and say, "I made a mistake. I'm sorry. I will fix it." That's a person with integrity. They take responsibility. They don't hide their error. And this makes the boss trust them even more. Another work example. A man is working at a shop. One customer forgets their change and walks away. The man could keep the money, but he runs after the customer and gives it back. That small act shows big character. People around him see it. They think, "Wow, this person is honest." And once again, that is integrity in action. Now, let's look at home life. Integrity also happens in our families. For example, a child accidentally breaks a cup. The parent comes and asks, "Did you break this?" The child could say, "No, it was the cat," or blame someone else. But the child says, "Yes, I broke it. I'm sorry." That shows honesty. That shows integrity. And most of the time, when someone tells the truth, people forgive them quickly and feel proud of them. Or let's say you borrow something from your brother or sister, a book or a phone charger. After using it, you return it without being asked. You don't wait for them to remind you. You do what is right. Again, this is a small example, but it shows integrity. You respect others and their things. Integrity can also mean helping others, even when you don't get anything back. For example, helping a neighbor carry something heavy, even when you're tired. Or helping a classmate who is struggling, even if it takes your time. People with integrity care about doing the right thing, not just the easy thing. So, as you can see, integrity is not always about big decisions. It's about small actions, every day. Telling the truth, saying sorry when you're wrong, helping someone when they need it, keeping your promises, taking responsibility, respecting others. These are all ways we show integrity. The best thing is, we all have the chance to show integrity every day. And every time we do, we become stronger, better, and more trusted by the people around us. Signs of a person with integrity. So, how can we tell if someone has integrity? What are the signs? What kind of actions show that a person is living with integrity? In this part of the episode, we'll talk about the clear and simple signs of a person who has this important quality. As you listen, think about yourself too. Do you already show some of these signs in your life? One of the first signs of a person with integrity is honesty. A person with integrity tells the truth, even when it's hard. They don't lie to protect themselves or to get something they want. For example, if someone breaks a cup at home, they don't say, "I don't know who did it." They say, "I'm sorry, I broke the cup." This kind of honesty builds trust. People around them know they can believe what they say. Another sign is doing the right thing even when no one is watching. This is very important. It's easy to do the right thing when someone is watching us, like a teacher, a parent, or a boss. But what about when we are alone? People with integrity still follow the rules. They don't cheat, they don't steal, and they don't take shortcuts. They know that their actions matter, even if no one else sees them. It's about doing what's right, not just what's easy. Keeping promises is also a strong sign of integrity. If someone says they will do something, they do it. Even if it's difficult, they try their best to keep their word. For example, if a person says, "I will help you study tomorrow," they don't cancel or forget. They show up and help. People with integrity don't make promises just to sound nice. They mean what they say, and they do what they promise. Another sign is taking responsibility for mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes. It's a normal part of life. But a person with integrity doesn't try to hide their mistake or blame someone else. They say, "Yes, that was my fault," and then they try to fix the problem. This shows maturity, respect, and strength. It also shows that they care about doing the right thing, even when it's not perfect. Respecting others is also a part of integrity. People with integrity treat others kindly and fairly. They don't lie, cheat, or hurt others to get ahead. They listen when someone is speaking. They follow rules in games, at school, or at work. They don't take more than their share. They care about justice and fairness, not just for themselves, but for everyone around them. Finally, a person with integrity often has a strong inner voice. This voice tells them what is right and wrong. They don't always follow what everyone else is doing. If others are doing something bad, they are not afraid to say no. They choose their actions based on what they believe is right, not just what is popular. These are all signs of integrity. Being honest, doing the right thing when no one is watching, keeping promises, taking responsibility, treating people with respect, and listening to your inner voice. These are simple things, but they are powerful. They make you a person that others trust, respect, and admire. In the next part of this episode, we'll talk about how you can practice integrity in your own life, step by step. Let's continue. How to practice integrity in your daily life. Now that we understand what integrity is and what it looks like in real life, let's talk about something very important: how to practice integrity in your daily life. Integrity is not just a big idea. It is something you can show through small actions every single day. You don't have to be perfect, and you don't have to do something big or special. In fact, integrity often starts with very small but powerful choices. The first way to practice integrity is to be honest with yourself and others. This means telling the truth, even when it's difficult. For example, if you don't understand something in class, you don't pretend you do. You raise your hand and ask for help. That takes courage, but it also shows honesty. Or if someone asks you if you've done your homework and you haven't, you can say, "Not yet, but I will do it today." Being honest builds trust, and trust is one of the most important parts of integrity. Another way to practice integrity is to keep your promises. If you say you will do something, do it. Maybe you promised a friend to call them later. Maybe you told your mom you would help clean the room. Try your best to do what you said. If something changes and you can't do it, tell the truth and explain why. People will understand if you are honest, but if you break your promises again and again, people may stop trusting you. So, think carefully before you make a promise, and always try to keep your word. You can also practice integrity by doing the right thing, even when no one is watching. This is one of the strongest signs of integrity. For example, let's say you're walking down the street and see someone drop a small bag. No one is looking. You can pick it up and keep it, or you can return it. A person with integrity will choose to return it, even if they don't get a reward. Or maybe at school, everyone is talking during a quiet study time. You feel like talking too, but you remember the rules. You stay quiet because you know it's the right thing to do. These small actions help build strong character. Another important way to show integrity is to take responsibility for your actions. If you make a mistake, say, "I'm sorry, that was my fault." Don't hide the truth or blame others. This can be hard, especially if you're afraid of getting in trouble. But taking responsibility shows that you are strong and honest. People will respect you more if you are truthful. And you will also feel better inside, because you are not hiding or lying. You can also practice integrity by treating people with kindness and respect, even if they are different from you. Maybe someone speaks a different language, dresses differently, or thinks differently than you do. A person with integrity does not laugh at others or make them feel small. Instead, they listen, try to understand, and treat everyone fairly. This builds peace and friendship in the world around us. Practicing integrity also means listening to your inner voice. That small feeling inside that tells you what is right and what is wrong. Sometimes, other people may ask you to do something you know is not right. They may say, "It's okay, everyone does it." But deep inside, you feel it's wrong. Listen to that voice. Say no. Choose the right path. The more you listen to your inner voice, the stronger it becomes. Here's a good tip. Every day, before you sleep, ask yourself a few questions. Did I tell the truth today? Did I keep my promises? Did I treat people kindly? Did I do what I said I would do? These questions will help you check your actions. They will also help you grow into a person with stronger integrity. Remember, no one is perfect. We all make mistakes. Practicing integrity does not mean you never do something wrong. It means you try to do what's right, learn from your mistakes, and try to do better tomorrow. Little by little, step by step, you grow stronger inside. So, today, try to practice one small act of integrity. Be honest, be kind, take responsibility, or do the right thing quietly, without telling anyone. These simple acts make your character shine. And the more you practice, the more natural it becomes. Personal story or anecdote. Let me share a personal story. A moment in my life that really taught me something about integrity. I wasn't proud of it at the time, but I've learned that sometimes the biggest lessons come from the moments when we don't live up to our values. A few years ago, I was working on a team project at my job. We had a big deadline coming up, and everyone was under a lot of pressure. One of my co-workers, let's call him Adam, made a mistake that caused the whole team to fall behind schedule. It wasn't a huge mistake, but it definitely affected our progress. During a meeting, our manager asked what happened, and instead of being honest, I stayed silent. I didn't speak up to support Adam, and I didn't take responsibility either, even though part of the delay was my fault too. After the meeting, Adam looked disappointed. He didn't say much, but I could feel it. I knew I had let him down. Worse than that, I had let myself down. I had chosen silence to protect my image, to avoid difficult questions, to escape responsibility. And honestly, that silence felt heavier than any words I could have spoken. That evening, I couldn't stop thinking about it. I kept asking myself, why didn't I speak up? The answer was simple: fear. I was afraid of looking weak. I was afraid of being blamed. But the result? I lost my peace of mind. I lost a bit of my own self-respect. That's when I understood something important. Integrity doesn't just affect others. It affects how we feel about ourselves. The next day, I asked Adam if we could talk. I told him I was sorry for not speaking up, and that I should have been more honest in the meeting. I also went to my manager and admitted my part in the delay. It wasn't easy. I was nervous. My voice was shaking. But something unexpected happened. My manager appreciated my honesty. He didn't punish me. In fact, he said, "I respect that. It takes courage to admit your part." And Adam? He simply smiled and said, "Thanks for saying that." I know it wasn't easy. In that moment, I felt lighter. Not because everything was fixed, but because I had faced the truth. I had taken responsibility. I had realigned my actions with my values, and that gave me something no praise or promotion ever could: inner peace. This story taught me that integrity is not just about what others see. It's about what you know about yourself. It's easy to act strong on the outside, but real strength is quiet. It shows up when no one is watching. It shows up when you admit a mistake, when you apologize, when you take the hard but honest road. Sometimes we think integrity is only about the big decisions, but often it lives in small moments, like choosing to tell the truth when it's uncomfortable, or standing beside someone when it's easier to walk away. And when we don't make the right choice, that's not the end of the story. We can still go back. We can still repair the damage, learn from it, and grow. So if you've ever made a choice you regret, if you've ever stayed silent when you should have spoken, or looked the other way when someone needed you, you're not alone. I've been there too. And what matters most is what you do next. Integrity is a journey. It's not about being perfect every time. It's about recognizing your values, facing your fears, and having the courage to return to what really matters, even when it's uncomfortable. Self-reflection segment. Now let's slow down a little. We've talked a lot today about integrity, what it really means, why it matters, the myths that confuse us, and how to build it day by day. But now it's your turn. I want to invite you to pause and reflect. This isn't about judging yourself or finding all the things you've done wrong. This is about learning, growing, and connecting more deeply with who you are. Sometimes we move so fast in life that we forget to stop and ask ourselves real questions. Questions that make us think, feel, and wake up to what really matters. So if you're listening with headphones or sitting somewhere quiet, take a deep breath. And if you can, close your eyes for just a moment. Let these questions gently guide your thoughts. You don't need to answer them right now. Just feel them. Let them land in your mind and heart. Here's the first one. When was the last time you stood up for what you believed in, even when it was hard? Try to picture that moment. Where were you? Who was there? What did it feel like? Were you proud of yourself afterward? Or maybe, was there a time you wanted to speak up but didn't? What stopped you? Now think about this. Is there an area in your life where you're not being fully honest with yourself? Maybe it's a relationship that's no longer healthy. Maybe it's a habit that's hurting your progress. Or maybe you've been telling yourself, "I'm fine," when really, you're not. What would happen if you told yourself the truth? Not to be harsh, but to be real, with love and respect. Here's another question to consider. What kind of person do you want to be when no one is watching? This is where integrity lives, not in your resume, your Instagram posts, or the words you say in front of others. But in the quiet moments, when you're alone, when it's just you and your choices, what kind of character are you building in those private spaces? And finally, what small action could you take this week to practice more integrity? Maybe it's being honest in a conversation you've been avoiding. Maybe it's saying no to something that doesn't feel right. Or maybe it's just taking 5 minutes each night to reflect and write in a journal. Small steps can lead to deep changes. I encourage you to take these questions and explore them in your own way. If you like writing, try journaling. Even just a few lines can help clear your mind. If you're not into writing, try voice recording. Speak your answers out loud and listen to your own thoughts. And if you have someone you trust, a friend, a family member, or even an English-speaking partner, talk about these questions together. Real conversations can help us grow even more. And if English is still new or challenging for you, that's okay. Don't worry about making perfect sentences. This is about your thoughts, your heart, your honesty. You can even mix your own language with English as you explore these reflections. What matters is that you engage, that you don't just listen, but live this process. Because in the end, podcasts like this are not just about learning words or grammar. They're about learning who you want to be. That's what we believe here at Code Your English, that language and personal growth can and should go hand in hand. So take your time, reflect slowly, and remember, growth doesn't happen all at once. It happens moment by moment, decision by decision, one honest answer at a time. As we come to the end of this episode, let's take a moment to reflect on what we've explored today. We started by asking, what is integrity? And we learned that it's much more than just honesty. Integrity is about consistency, about living according to your values and doing the right thing, even when no one is watching. It's about walking your talk and staying true to yourself, no matter what. We talked about why integrity matters in everyday life, in friendships, in work, in the quiet moments when you make choices that define who you are. We also challenged some common myths, like the idea that integrity means being perfect, or always speaking your mind without thinking. Instead, integrity asks for kindness, courage, and honesty with yourself and others. We explored the challenges that come with living with integrity: fear, self-doubt, pressure from others, and sometimes the temptation to stay silent or take the easy way out. But we also shared practical ways to develop integrity, like honest self-talk, journaling, setting clear boundaries, and focusing on progress over perfection. We heard a personal story that showed how choosing honesty and responsibility, even when it's difficult, can bring peace and respect, both from others and from yourself. Finally, we invited you to reflect deeply on your own life, to think about when you last stood up for your beliefs, where you might not be fully honest with yourself, and what small steps you can take to grow your integrity each day. Because, after all, integrity isn't a perfect destination. It's a journey of becoming who you really want to be. So here's the message I want you to carry with you. Integrity is not about being perfect. It's about being aligned with your true self. It's about the quiet strength that comes from knowing you are doing your best, even when it's hard, even when it's uncomfortable, and even when no one is watching. You don't need to be loud to be strong. Integrity is quiet. It doesn't shout or demand attention, but it changes everything. It builds trust, peace, and confidence that no one can take away. It gives you a foundation that lasts, no matter what life throws your way. If this episode spoke to you, I encourage you to take what you've learned and put it into action. Reflect on your values. Notice the small choices you make each day. Practice being honest with yourself and others. And remember, growth happens one step at a time. If you found this helpful, please consider subscribing to Code Your English, so you won't miss future episodes where we explore meaningful life topics and improve English together. I'd also love to hear from you. Feel free to share your thoughts or stories about integrity in the comments, or even ask questions. Your voice matters here. Thank you for spending this time with me today. Keep growing, keep reflecting, and keep living with integrity. You're stronger than you know. Until next time, take care and keep coding your English, one step at a time.